Hello and welcome to today's webinar on driving new business value with the Internet of Things. My name is Jeremy Cowan. I'm editorial director and co-founder of IoT Now, and it's my real pleasure to be your moderator today. Thank you to everyone for joining us right around the world. We are live, unless, of course, you're streaming and listening to the webcast, in which case we missed you. Where were you? We're glad you're here now. We've got a great discussion for you, brought to you with our partners at PTC. So the very first thing to do is introduce you to our speaker. I'm delighted to welcome someone with a great deal of IoT experience, Marcus Hannon. He is Vice President of Pre-Sales and Market Development for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Massachusetts-based PTC. Great to have you here, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. It's a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to talk here.
Good. Today we're going to be looking at how manufacturers often start by using IoT, the Internet of Things, for asset monitoring and service. And we want to know where they're going from there. Some are finding that connected things add value to their marketing and sales or product development. Others are helped to use data that they already collect. Now, many of you will be familiar with the way that our webinars work. This is being recorded, and you can access it tomorrow at iot-now.com. All our webinars are interactive, so you can start sending me your questions right now and throughout Marcus's presentation. I'll put your questions to him at the end. Just click on the questions button and type yours into the window, and I'll put as many questions to him as time allows. Any that I don't get to will be passed to PTC to answer offline. And of course, a selection of PT slides will also be available after the webinar. Finally, if you're having any technical issues with audio or slides, you can also use the question window to get advice from our excellent tech support team. But I said we wanted to know what you think, so we're going to start with an audience poll. All I'm asking you to do, if you would, is just click on answer A, B, C, or D, whichever one is closest to your experience, and we'll then see the results immediately. Remember, your replies are, of course, anonymous, and the poll question is, what are the most critical challenges to getting your transformation journey started? Are the challenges technology, resources, culture, or organization? So where do you see the most critical challenges to getting your transformation journey started? Technology, resources, culture, or organization? That's probably enough time to answer. Let's have a quick look and see what results have come through so far. Well, by some margin, 36% of you said the culture of organization is the critical challenge. The issue there is how to change your organization and how to get it to adapt. Marcus, is this kind of what you expected, or does this surprise you?
This is something which I expected, and I really like this poll because I would like to adopt this later during my presentation because we have intensively dedicated our thoughts around these 4 bullets, what we have to do in order to make sure that the transformation journey gets started. I will cover that in the last third of my presentation. Thank you very much for...
That's great. Let's come back to it. Okay, well, look, there's nothing to prevent us getting started. Let's go straight to the main event. Marcus, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Yeah, before I dive in, I thought to start with a philosophical approach, because whenever we talk about digitization, Industry 4.0, IoT, the typical theme is ongoing, which is about data is the new oil. Yeah? And I think there's something very interesting if you look a little bit deeper on this. Yeah? What are the similarities, but also what is the difference? And I think if you look to the similarity, it is like oil. The value of data reduces with its quantity. But the difference, is that oil is an energy source, which really can exploit it immediately. Therefore, it's clear that it has a self-contained value. But this is something which data doesn't have. Data only provides a value when you distill it into a context to deliver instant value to a user. And this is something which is very important, which directly drives me to my next slide, where it is about, if we look to typical products we have today, there are two things which are very important if we think about how do we orient a digital context in a converged digital and physical world. I think on one hand, it's very important for everybody within a company, in a manufacturing company, that he has to understand the product. A product which is really changing quickly, a product which is defined by electronic information, software information, mechanical information, merged with the physical world. What used to be a sold product is going to transform to a kind of service-oriented product. What used to be more an isolated product is becoming a product in a context, and very, very important. What used to be multi-year cycles for a product is going to continuously change on a daily base. This is something which is important. People have to understand this product. And even more important is if we look what used to be a linear process from the first idea of planning, designing, validating, and producing a product and handing it out to a customer, is going to get connected to a closed loop where we continuously learn through connectivity from the way how a product is used, from the way how a product is served. And this is, from my perspective, one of the core competences for the future, where people have to control and orchestrate a physical and digital context. Digitization is an important topic, in particular if we look to the way how we as a company have gone through this kind of transformation. We, PTC, everybody knows that, used to be a solution provider for engineering, manufacturing, and service, with software solutions for CAD design, for managing products, for managing software with integrity, or managing the software lifecycle service. But if we look really through the way how the world was changing, and I don't have to tell you because you experience this also on a daily basis, the world is changing, and in particular the things are changing. What used to be a product is going to increase complexity to a system on system. So the nature of product is completely changing, and this was something where we, from as a PTC solution provider, developing things, we had to adapt how the way the things are changing. And furthermore, also the companies were changing. So the value stream within a company was changing. Different departments has been organized in order to change the way we serve the product. And this was something we as a company had to adapt, and therefore we have extended our solution suite in the way to address these needs of the industry. So we have added to our solution a technology platform that allows us, first of all, to bring our solutions into connected solutions, but also develop solutions and applications for the IoT world or for the analytic world, also to address augmented reality or industrial connectivity. This brought us into the opportunity, or gave us the opportunity to really manage these closed loop in order to help companies connect devices, analyze devices, create application and experience products in a different way, for example, augmented reality. So this was one very, very important transformation journey, digitization journey for us as a company in order to help companies to really orchestrate a physical and digital convergency. And one important framework we have developed in order to address these physical and digital orchestration was a way to address the different topics which are needed. If I come back to my initial slide, how to bring data in a context to create instant value, was this orchestration framework. On one hand, whenever we have a digitization approach, you have to make sure that you get all the data from the different sources. Yeah? On one hand, you have the physical devices. Furthermore, you have also the different cloud solutions which are providing as additional source in the connected world. Furthermore, you have the edge. Yeah, you have the different manufacturing lines where you have the needs of OT and IT convergency within the factory, an additional source for getting data. Furthermore, you have the different solutions you are running to develop a product, coming from design or product management, but also furthermore from also all different related business systems within your enterprise. So therefore, you have multiple sources which are providing a digital content within your enterprise. These informations have to get contextualized. On one hand, it's important that we strip these data to the right context to make sure that those data are consumable. Yeah? And this has also a connection to the different data streams. But after you have contextualized the information, you have the ability to synthesize, to create something new. You can do an analyzation in order to get a different context and make something valuable out of it, vice versa. You have the ability to simulate with this data to synthesize those information to a specific context. And furthermore, once you have created something, contextualized something, you have to orchestrate this again within your existing environment in the enterprise. One important topic. Before, at the end, you have the ability to provide end users with the specific information. This could be mobile apps, this could be typical applications on your app, and vice versa more. We have now the ability to use augmented reality wearables in order to contextualize information with physical and a digital context. And this is something we as a software provider have adopted with our ThingWorx platform. One important topic that it's not only about creating a specific application or a specific cloud, it's always about sourcing information, contextualize information, synthesize, orchestrate, and at the end to engage with the right context to the right role-based people. Perfect. I have created and brought a customer example with to go one step deeper on these topics. It's Ego. Ego is a new startup company in Germany which is going to develop a new electrical vehicle for the market. A city car which is dedicated to the urban usage, which is dedicated to be affordable, which is dedicated to be safe, practical, and this is really a digital native company which is demonstrating Industry 4.0 capabilities based on our solution set. Let me go to present a couple of examples to you. I mentioned orchestrate, I mentioned bringing all this information into a specific context. Here we see an example how we have contextualized specific information during the product development process into a specific context in order to make sure that I have real-time data based on the actual status on the requirements achievement in the context of the development BOM, in the context of the actual weight, together with the actual design data. So this was one important topic during the development stage, to gather and connect different systems and bring them into a specific context together, so that everybody gets at a glance, in real time, all the information he needs. One important topic, contextualize. Another important topic was bringing those informations together during an agile development process in terms of augmented reality. So all information we have seen now in the app, which is available on your desktop, has been also published through augmented reality into the physical context. What we see here now is the frame of the car, and what we have done with help of augmented reality, that we can augment the digital content on the vehicle, including all these informations coming from the different systems, requirements, parts data, drawings, so that everybody also in the factory had the possibility directly to contextualize digital and physical world with help of augmented reality, together with real core hard recorded requirements information out of the system. The next major topic was not only bringing requirements and design information, also helping doing options and variants within the frame. Here we see another example where we have augmented the different styling alternatives directly on the rolling chassis. As you know, if you want to develop an electrical vehicle from scratch, it was really dedicated to be bigger from inside than from outside. They have really adopted different options from sizing perspective. And here you see if someone, the owner of the company, he's 2 meter 15 big, and it was important that also huge people can sit in the car. And it's a wonderful example how augmented reality was helping directly before the car was built to see how it fits to human behavior without having a digital simulation on the desktop necessary. But it's not only adopting the augmented reality topics, it's also about how to integrate real-time data coming from sensors directly from the vehicle into the design process. Here we see how data streams are directly integrated into the simulation process. In a typical process, you have to do your particular simulation based on assumption and do your simulation. What Ego has done was replacing the assumption out of the test drive within the field in real time, so that they were really able to get the real forces, the real criteria coming directly from the driving vehicle into the design process in order to optimize the products based on real-time data. Another major part of that digitization strategy was not only the mechanical design process, also to integrate the model-based systems and engineering approach into a real-time data connectivity approach. So what they have done was the software engineer has developed a system model, and this system model was directly connected with a real-time driving behavior in order to make sure that we can optimize, in this example, the battery consumption in the context of a real closed loop, fully embedded in the manufacturing line in order to see how different assembly procedures have different effects on a real-time vehicle. So we have seen many different examples which have been implemented in a very, very agile approach, which helps a company to learn, which helps a company really to make quick decisions based on real-time experience. And I think this is something which is one of the major topics of Industry 4.0 and IoT. If we look to the real potential and business potential behind IoT and Industry 4.0, yeah, it's always coming to the same effect that in a general process you lose a lot of time. Once an event is happening, you have an insight latency. It needs a little bit of time before all these informations are available. It needs a little bit of time to analyze once those data are available. It needs a little bit of time before you have a countermeasure approved, and it needs a little bit of time before a countermeasure takes effect. Yeah? And this is the major goal and the major target of Industry 4.0, to reduce these data or information latency in engineering, manufacturing, service, but also in sales and marketing. This is for sure something where tech pieces can help. If you have a real-time capability, a system integration that helps you to get very soon insights. You can do big data analytics or machine learning in order to improve your analyst time, yeah? Or you create a decision support system out of a mashup you have seen before in order to make sure that it becomes quickly adopted. But on the one hand, it's very important, and this is something which is bringing me back to my initial question. Is it just technology? For sure, it's not. Therefore, we have worked intensively together over the last 1.5 years, together with Arcatech. Arcatech is the name. In 2011, Arcatech came out with the term Industry 4.0, and with them we have developed together a concept to help companies to bring digitization to a real-life scenario. Let me come to this. The first step we did together with Arcatech was that we have developed a kind of level-based approach concept for Industry 4.0. So there are different levels. If we start with visibility, which is starting to help you what has happened. Furthermore, if you go to the next level, which is transparency, which gives you kind of understanding of what happened. Yeah? So why does it happen? And if you go one step higher to predictability, it gives you an answer on what might or what will happen in the future to be prepared for similar cases. And finally, to the ultimate goal that we can help a system to self-optimize, or how can something autonomous react on a specific action. These are the 4 levels. But my initial question was not only what the technology can provide. I think everybody knows already that it's not the biggest challenge to connect systems. It's not the biggest challenge to create specific applications. But even more, it's important, do you have the right resources within your company? Do you have the right organizational structure in the company or the right culture? So it will not help you if you have a level 4 from your IT and technology perspective, and you're able to provide visibility and transparency from organizational perspective, but you have not an organizational structure which can make any decisions out of this, or you have not the right culture within the company, because any kind of transformation journey needs agility. It must be okay to make failures in order to really adapt quickly new changes. But also, if the people or the machines are not equipped with the right behavior and educated with the right technology, it will not help you. So what we have developed with architect together is a kind of framework that helps you to measure your company where you are. Based on these 6 levels, we have developed a scenario which helps to figure out where you are in these different action fields, from technology, from resources, organizational perspective, and resource perspective. And once we have analyzed the company, measured the company, we are pretty easy to figure out where are you in your different areas, where are you in your different products. And one important topic is, and this is something which is a very great concept, that once you have measured your company, you can develop a kind of digital agenda which helps you to go on all 4 areas into a specific levels. So it's not necessary to go on level 6 from technology. It might be even more interesting to go on level 3 with all your different approaches. And after that, you get a guideline, you get a concept which helps you what you have to do in terms of your resources, what do you have to do in terms of your organizational structures or IT perspective or OT perspective, and finally from a resource and cultural perspective. This is something where we are making great success and great improvement within the industry right now to develop a journey-based approach to drive Industry 4.0 into your specific company. With that, Jeremy, I am open now to questions, and I'm happy to get as much questions as possible.
Marcus, that's great. Thank you. Well, I can see that people have been busy sending in lots of questions. Please keep your questions coming in, and any that we can't cover this afternoon, PTC will respond to offline. The first question is quite a broad one. It's how should companies start a transformation journey? I think you touched on this, Marcus, but could you give us a bit more detail?
How should companies start? Yeah. First of all, I think it's important message to start because we are living in a very fast moving forward industry, really addressing exponential growth from technology perspective, and therefore I think it's important to start, yeah, to develop your demonstrators, yeah, to learn in particular. Learn is one of the most important topics, and the more you learn in this, the better you can accelerate. Yeah? There are many different areas where the starting point might be the right one. It depends a little bit on the company. But if we look, for example, to the shop floor today, there is a huge potential in terms of getting real qualified business values in connecting the shop floor, for example.
Do you think that we can learn anything from the answers that we got earlier to the poll? One of the biggest, well, the biggest challenge by a margin was the organization, and you've touched on that in your reply just now, which I take to mean the structure and possibly the size of the organization. But the second biggest response was in resources. Do you think we should take note of that?
Absolutely. This is also something I mentioned during my presentation. It's important to learn, yeah. And on this journey, it's very important to give your resources the opportunity to be part of the journey. One important topic is that IoT, Industry 4.0, has become a real team play approach, not only from different disciplines, also from different organizational perspective. It's very important that you integrate the different departments into your first learning curves in order to become an agile learning company. And it's also even more important, it must be okay to fail. Yeah? So fail fast, and then you are able to gather the lessons learned out of your enterprise. And there's huge value within your company and how to go on a digitization and transformation journey.
That's quite a brave thing to ask of people, but I can see why you say that. I heard a consultant, Rob Schmidt from Deloitte, last week saying, I know that he works with PTC, and he said something similar: think big, start small, scale fast. Is that good advice? Does that prevent you losing in a big way, and if you failing small and then learning the lesson? Is that the advice we should take?
This is really the advice we should take. I think this is something which has already said over the last 2-3 decades, but it has become even more and more relevant today for digitization and IoT, because there are so many things we can learn very, very fast. And once we have made that step, you can really scale fast. Yeah? There are many potential entry points. It could be a specific product. It could be a specific manufacturing line. It could also a specific learning product. But you have to go to this first phase, and you have to make your lessons learned. This is the most important topic.
Yeah, there's a good question here from someone about the manufacturing environment. Do manufacturers have to start with brand new connected machines? I guess the implication is it possible to keep your CapEx, your capital expenditure costs down by retrofitting sensors and connectivity to existing machinery?
Absolutely. This is one important topic. You should and you have to start. You cannot change your infrastructure. This is one important topic. The technology is there to integrate your existing PLCs, for example. The technology is there to do some additive retrofit pieces. And the technology is there also to integrate the different MES systems in your environment. And there's no need to wait for the next generation of infrastructure in your environment.
While we're talking about strategy, there's a really good question here. How does an IoT strategy change from large enterprises to small to medium businesses? And are the driving factors for return on investment separate? I think he means distinct. Are they different?
Are they different? It depends a little bit on the business. First of all, there's a huge potential, and every company is developing small pieces of organizations where you have a cross-functional team working on the architecture or the business architecture of the future. It has to be very tightly aligned with the company strategy. A digital strategy is one important topic for your journey. But is it really different between a big and a small company? From sizing, from all levels, from cultural perspective, from resource perspective, there might be some changes. But it's interesting to see. I have a project with the second oldest company of the world, developing a push buttons, PRIM. Also companies on an SMB area are going very fast. And in some cases, it's interesting to see how those companies can speed up or scale up after a short period of lessons learned. So every project has a different time agenda. It's important to connect it with the digital strategy. Therefore, the CDO becomes an important role in the company. But a digital strategy is a company strategy. It's not part of IT only anymore. Independent
so
from
it's
staff.
ownership from the top floor by some ambassador, somebody who's prepared to champion it.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And clearly, in your view, from the CEO, from the top level.
From the highest level, from the CEO. And you see that in many cases right now that companies are changing, but it's not enough just to remove the tie. Yeah? It's also important that you really develop a clear, let's say, digital agenda from highest top level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sound advice. There's something else here that somebody has touched on from a university. We've got a really good question that has cropped up in previous webinars, and it'll crop up again. I'd like to hear your views on it, please, Marcus. The questioner says, I've seen a lot about how to create a transitional infrastructure to incorporate IoT into the business, but I did not see anything about integration of security as a major forethought in the new growth. Could you give us your thoughts on that, Marcus?
Absolutely. Security is one key player for digitization. From the early point, companies have to think about security. And one important topic is, in the same way you develop a digital agenda or a digital strategy, it's important that you analyze which kind of security do you need for your future scenario. Yeah? Security is an important topic. You have to make sure that this is a parallel approach, but it's also important to analyze which kind of security you need in order to avoid that you develop a security concept which is too big or too small. Yeah? It has to fit for your needs. Yeah? There are no limitations, and there is no technology provider. There are a lot of technology providers who can help you to develop a great technology to develop a security concept with you. And it's a great question, and it's important to address this. Yeah,
yeah, it is a good question. And it's a huge topic, and one that I'm sure we'll come back to. Good question here. Where do you see the short-term economic potential of Industry 4.0? I mean, you've talked about some of the reasons for getting started. Could you just sort of try and sum up where you see the short-term potential?
There are several short-term potentials. One significant short-term potential is the shop floor because of existing connectivity pieces. This is one important topic. But another important topic is the way how you automate your information flow in your company. The connected change is one important topic to make sure that you have a seamless information flow, an automated information flow within your company. Also, this is an IoT topic and an Industry 4.0 topic.
Yeah. We talked about sort of the reasons for going forward. Here's a question about the reasons that might slow you or cause you to stumble. And the questioner from a software company says, what are the typical roadblocks for implementing IoT solutions, and how do you typically solve them? Again, a pretty broad question, but if you could give us a couple of examples, that would be really interesting.
I think the biggest roadblockers are if you try to do too much in small steps. If you do too much and you do not have an aligned resources, an aligned organizational strategy and an aligned social strategy within your company, you will fail. Yeah? This will also create frustration within the company. Therefore, it is very important to start small and learn and scale fast. Yeah? In many cases, companies are developing isolated IoT scenarios which are not aligned with the company's strategy.
Yeah. Strategy is something that seems to be coming up a lot today. Marcus, there's a question that I wanted to ask, so I'm going to be cheeky and jump in here. We've seen that some manufacturers use IoT to kind of change their whole business model. Examples being Michelin now sells truck mobility as a service just as much as it sells truck tires. And I gather that the elevator or lift manufacturer ThyssenKrupp now sells elevation as a service, including predictive maintenance, you'd be glad to hear, instead of selling elevators. Is this the future for everyone in Industry 4.0 or just for a select few?
I don't think that this is the future for every single company. We still will sell physical products in a traditional way. But it is an opportunity for many companies also to adopt the way how they sell or service a product or sell services instead of a physical product. Yeah? Many companies are thinking in this direction. Many companies are investigating. Many companies are struggling. What is the potential price scenario? But it always starts with, it comes back to the story, if you do not start and if you do not learn, you will not figure that out, and it might be that someone else will be faster.
Yeah, yeah. We hear quite a lot of talk about greenfield and brownfield sites. We've got a question here from a delegate that says, what are the major differences in IoT between greenfield and brownfield approaches?
Greenfield approaches give you the ability to start from scratch within its name. Yeah? And you do not have any historical hurdles. Brownfield approaches gives you the ability to integrate much more and also use all historical information in order to get lessons learned for the future, which greenfield approaches don't have. Yeah? So therefore, both have pros and cons. But the interesting thing is that I have learned that many companies are doing both. Yeah? They might have an innovative new product line. They can start there on a greenfield approach and integrate the lessons learned into the brownfield area. So I do see a big potential for the companies to use both approaches, even within a homegrown enterprise, which is already existing for a long time. And there's a lot of advantage you can get out of brownfield approaches because you know much more about the history. That's something you don't know in a greenfield approach.
Yeah. There's an interesting question from a woman here who says, how can I convince customers to share their data? She doesn't say whether she's from an integrator or an enabling company, but she goes on to say often they are reluctant to share because of security/privacy issues, which I guess is understandable, but she rightly points out this data is mission critical for their business, so it makes them very cautious.
Yeah, a typical question you have in a traditional OEM supplier and customer relationship. It is not a simple question, a simple answer. It always ends up if you are able to develop a win-win constellation for both. You have to the possibility to find an approach where you can share data. Yeah? but also this is something you have to test and learn how you can create a value prop for this multilateral data approach. I think security is an important topic. This is something where you can develop great concept that convince the customer there are no security constraints, but it will also, you also have to address the win-win business constellation, which helps you to share data over boundaries.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody wants to take a long view here, and it says, what do you think of the sort of the next technology levels that expectations that we should have of IoT?
The next major technology is for sure augmented reality, bridging physical and digital world, decorating physical information with digital information, helping people in service, helping people in the shop floor. I think this is a major driver which will help to simplify IoT within the industry. And there are a lot of scenarios. We have developed a concept which really help to do augmented reality solutions without having the need of coding a piece of software. This should be a kind of output out of your development stream. I see this as a major technology driver because of the democratization of augmented reality to converge physical and digital data.
There's a questioner in India who wants to know how we can maintain the pace or even scale up the pace of IoT within our organization. I mean, it speaks a little bit to the points that you were raising earlier, but we're looking kind of the medium term now, the longer term.
The experience I'm making right now within the industry is many companies have their innovation offices, their digitization offices, their different areas where different people come together, and they're using this to educate their enterprise. And it always comes up, this is something which could be learned very quickly because it's a really fantastic experience for everybody to see how physical and digital world is coming together. It's just doing. The more you can really do from practical approach, the faster you can adapt this and you get the learning curve within your company. It's not something which is difficult, just about doing.
We've got a two-part question here from a telco in France. First part is, have you any idea about the level of Industry 4.0 maturity across different economic sectors or across countries? I'm sure a company as big as PTC will probably have a very clear idea of that. What do you want to say at this stage for public consumption?
It's a pretty difficult question. How you measure the maturity of different verticals. We are working on this, but this takes some time to get a clear description of different verticals. But I think there are for sure manufacturing industries which are making significant progress, but I can't measure them yet. I think this takes a year from now to get clear differences between verticals. But it's one important
topic. Can we get you back in a year to answer that question again? Because I'd like to hear the answer. I think that could be quite informative.
Yeah, but I would like to add different topic which is very important to this, in particular of what is Industry 4.0. I think one important topic is that it's not just the automation of the shop floor. Yeah? I think one important topic that is the automation of the information flow throughout the entire enterprise, in engineering, in service, in manufacturing, in sales. Yeah? And this is something which is very important from my perspective. Yeah?
We've probably got time for a couple more questions. I did say that that last one was a two-parter, and the second part of this, if you wouldn't mind, Marcus, is a good one, and it's asking, will blockchain be a part of this, meaning be a part of Industry 4.0, and if so, how?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Will blockchain be a part of the future of Industry 4.0?
Blockchain?
Yeah, the secure payment and authentication. If that's one that you'd like to take offline, we could always deal with that.
This is something
separately.
We have to take offline, yeah.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Let's go for one last question, and that is, do you foresee a future for on-premise IoT solutions, or gradually will all industries believe in data security in the cloud?
It will be a hybrid constellation. For sure, it is an important topic, but if we go back to the initial or the slide I have shown about the source and orchestrate and synthesize process. So one important topic, let's use the shop floor as an example. If you look to the huge amount of data which will be created in the shop floor, this is not something you can send entirely in the cloud. So one important topic will be the IT and OT convergency. So you have to work with the data directly on the shop floor before you can send them in the cloud. Otherwise, you will never come to a real-time environment, and it's not possible to send all the data in the cloud. So there will be many cases where it will be a hybrid approach. There might also be cases where you do it directly on the shop floor, and other cases where it will be interesting to do it entirely, completely in the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus, you've been a real sport. You've taken every question that we could throw at you, and there are still more, but we are out of time, I'm afraid. Any questions that we haven't got to, I will make sure to pass on to you and your team so that you can come back to the questioners directly, one-to-one. Let me just sum up by saying the aim of the webinar has been to understand, I guess, the next steps that we can take on the road to Industry 4.0. And in this discussion, we've clearly heard some of the challenges. We've heard how to overcome them. And I guess we've seen that some of the steps needn't be that hard to take, just as long as we have the right skills and the right partnerships on hand. Sadly, as I say, that's all we have time for. Please remember to bookmark our website at iot-now.com. You'll always find the latest news there. You'll find blogs, events, and interviews as well. And you can stream this webinar from the site tomorrow. Before you go, please just make a note to put June the 14th into your diary. At this time, we have another webinar, this time with PTC, on the subject of monetizing your IoT investment. It's how to deliver impact with your IoT investment. If you want more details, you'll find them on our website. And we certainly look forward to seeing you for that in the next few weeks. Marcus, it just remains for me to say a huge thank you for all your time today and for all your contributions. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me. Thank you.
Most of all, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for joining us wherever you are, for sharing your opinions and for sharing your questions with our expert. Keep safe, and we really do appreciate the time you spent with us. From everyone here at IoT Now, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.